Hello out there in internet land. This is Lauren Cadillac with Cadillac Law. I am here to talk to you about Greg Abbott's new rules post shelter in place. So today is April 28th, 2020. It is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And yesterday, about 24 hours ago, Greg Abbott came out with our new rules to hopefully get us back into our normal. The shelter-in-place rules that Greg Abbott set up for us, they end on April 30th, and he is not going to renew them. So the month and a half of being at home that we all kind of got used to is going to go away. I was a little bit surprised pleasantly to see that Greg Abbott is kind of doing a scaling type re-entry to the economy, so to speak. So starting May 1st, retail stores, malls, movie theaters, restaurants, non-interactive museums, and libraries are going to be opening at 25% capacity. So that means if let's say a restaurant could have held 100 people 3 months ago, that's their occupancy capacity, they can now only have 25 people seated. I've already seen from some restaurant and bar owners that they are not going to open. 25% capacity and 25% use is not enough for them to carry the utilities and to have employees, etc. Totally understandable. So you're not going to see all restaurants opening because it's a business decision of whether or not you can maintain your business at a 25% capacity. Libraries will be open at 25%. I don't really think that's going to have an effect. Last time I went to a library, I think there was maybe 2% of the capacity. So hopefully that is not too much of an issue. But for those of you who have read everything in your personal collection, now you should be able to go get some more library books. For those of you who have been suffering at home with poor internet or loud people, this would be a great way for you to be able to escape. You can now go to a library. Starting May 1st, churches and places of worship can do more than 25% capacity as long as they are maintaining strict social distancing. So as long as the building that they're doing their worship services in allows for folks to stand 6 feet apart, as many people as 6 feet apart can go back to church or to your place of worship. That's it. There's no other guidance. It doesn't say manufacturing has reopened. There's nothing here to tell us about law firms. Those type of things are not mentioned here. And so to me, if they're not in here, you're on the other rules, the shelter in place. If you're not part of the 25% capacity group, you're no capacity. So personally here in my office, we are only coming in when necessary. I'm in here today, feels great. But we're not coming in every day, and not all employees are coming in, and we don't want to risk things. We have too many young and elderly that we all care about, so we want to make sure we are keeping people safe. Masks are going to depend on where you're at. They're not mandatory by the governor, but some places are requiring them, and some businesses are requiring you have a mask on when you go in. I will say I've been keeping my handy mask, well, it's back here, and I had some clients come in earlier to meet me. They had masks on as well. I read somewhere, statistically speaking, if we both have a mask on, it's only about a 3% chance of germs exchanging. So I would suggest that if you can and when you go out, that you do wear a mask. The Abbott's rules do not apply to schools. The DISD is still adjourned through the whole year. I personally would not send my daughter back to school at this point because instead of being sick all the time, we haven't been sick since we came home. So Greg Abbott's rules and his phasing, the phase 1 with the 25% capacity, that is going to last until May 18th. Leading up to that point, he will reassess the statistics, the science, see where we're going, and make a decision about when the phase 2 starts. For now, phase 2 is going to be May 18th. That is going to allow 50% occupancy in that list I just gave you. And then hopefully maybe someday hair salons, barbershops, gyms. Again, that would be at 50% occupancy, and I'm sure there's some more guidelines that will go into it. Those places are not open at this time, and they are not to reopen. So if you see one open, do the nice neighborly thing and let the owner know that they're kind of breaking the law a lot and risking other people's safety. So please don't do that. Again, there's still no school. So as far as I understand, our children will not be returning to school until August. As far as I'm concerned, I just graduated my daughter. She's already a second grader, so there you go. I know that's really a hard burden for a lot of parents, and I know this has been really tough to do both. And I don't think the schools are going to expect our children have done incredibly high quality work at this time. I imagine that August and September of next year are going to be a lot of catch up of what mom and dad failed to communicate this year. And if you want to feel bad about it, you can, but I as a parent do not feel guilty in the least bit. My first priority is my children's safety and the fact that they eat. So, and without safety and food, what good is our education? But that's me. So in the DFW area, again, masks are not required. In terms of the law, a lot of folks, especially when this first started, said, well, what do I do with my kids? You know, we have a divorce decree that says we do this. You're going to continue to follow the court's order. So if you're a first, third, fifth weekend family, you're going to continue to do that. Now, I know when we first went into shelter in place, I had explained to you all that my children's fathers and I spoke, and we all decided that we're just going to leave the kids with me, and that was that. And so you are always able to change the court order between a mutual agreement. So if you both agree, particularly I have some friends, mom was not feeling well, so dad is keeping the kids additional days until they rule out COVID-19, because that would be terrible for the kids to catch it just because the court order said they need to go stay with mom. So if you and your child's parent, your co-parent can be reasonable, if there was ever a time to try, this would be it. And I think you can work that amongst yourself, but if you can't, fall back on that court order. Now, I know some folks have been financially strained, and luckily there has been a moratorium on evictions. Now that's lucky for tenants, but maybe not so lucky for landlords. Currently, the Greg Abbott's order has translated to the courts as requiring the courts to do as much online and phone hearings as humanly possible, requiring, if people are coming into the courtroom, that there be social distancing and occupancy limits, allowing a court to measure temperature before you're allowed in, allowing a court to reschedule if you have flu-like symptoms. Basically, the courts are going to be required to try to protect our interests as citizens and our health and safety and welfare. So in my experience, that means that we're not going to have full-blown jury trials prior to, who knows when. If phase 2 is 50% occupancy on May 18th, I don't know when our jury trials are going to resume, but my guess is it's going to be quite a bit. Probably in the fall, and that's all going to depend on statistics and how things go when we slowly reopen, etc. So currently, as of today, if you are a landlord and you are needing to evict someone, you cannot do that until May 18th. So no new evictions can be filed until May 18th. And again, Greg Abbott said he may change his mind May 18th, or prior to May 18th. He came out so I would assume by May 15th we'll know if we're going to be able to go forward with evictions for May 18th. And we're not able to do writ of possession until May 25th. So if you got an eviction before we got shuttered in, like early March, we'll say, you could, by all standards and under the law, you would have had your writ of possession now, and you would have been already able to kick out the tenant. However, because of the shelter in place, there was a moratorium on that, and that continues until May 25th. So even if you have a judgment saying the person needs to leave, you're not going to be able to get them out until May 25th at the earliest, with some exceptions. From what I read on the exception language, it's going to be very hard to overcome and show or prove that these exceptions relate to you. So I would just suggest that you make a mental note. Can't file a new eviction until May 18th, and you're not going to be able to get the property back by way of writ of possession until May 25th. Now, when May 25th comes around, how they handle the writ of possessions that are backlogged up to now, I have no idea. So just because you can do it on May 25th doesn't mean it's going to get done on May 25th, all right? I would plan on June or July if I were you. I'm really telling people, in terms of the courts, June and July, I think, is a more reasonable expectation of when we're going to get back to things. Now, that being said, there are some towns like Ferris, Texas, where they are actually, I have a hearing on the 12th for tickets, and we're doing it by Zoom. So really it's one of these where I just need to talk to the prosecutor. We'll talk by Zoom and do all the paperwork online and should have things taken care of. So I think we're going to see more and more of that, and hopefully the larger cities can get as efficient and as effective as Ferris has. I mean, their little system is pretty knockout, but they're a tiny, pretty small, not tiny, not insulting you, Ferris, Texas, but they are a small jurisdiction compared to somewhere like Dallas. So I don't think any of us are going to be going dressed up into court, although many of us have been told to wear our suit jackets when we have court online. So you might see us dressed up, but it's only so we can sit in front of our computers. I don't think we're going to be doing this in person very often until the summer gets really ramped up. Now, I say that, I had a friend who was in an Ellis County court 2 weeks ago. So who knows? It's always up to the judge what they want to do. My experience with the city of Dallas, Dallas County and its judges, is the judges are very reasonable, and they're going to likely delay things simply for the health, safety, and welfare of others. And that is understandable, and I honestly think it's praiseworthy. So those are the major changes. You can go to a movie theater, but only 25% occupancy. So there's not going to be any sold out Star Wars movies. I don't think there's any Star Wars movies coming up anytime soon, but there's not going to be any sold out movies. And, you know, if you're a movie theater owner, I don't even know cost benefit analysis. Is it worth it to even open your doors? Who knows? Folks they don't have to open. So just because Greg Abbott says you can open at 25% capacity does not mean you are forced to. You are a business owner in the United States of America. You can do what is best for you and your organization, and only you know what that is. Well, you and your employees, I assume. So again, major takeaways starting May 1st, 25% capacity restaurants, non-interactive museums, movie theaters, malls, and libraries. Churches and places of worship can do more than 25% if they keep their 6 feet social distancing requirement. And we'll find out again in May 18th if things have gone well enough to allow 50% occupancy, maybe the reopening of hair salons and nail salons, possibly gyms. We'll find that out, I would guess, around May 15th. Kids are still not going back to school. You should wear a mask because it keeps you safe and others, but it is not required in Dallas. I have heard they are required in Harris County. So do try to wear those, though, when you can. And make sure you're continuing to exchange your children as reasonable and necessary for them. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us. 972-845-1200. This is Lauren Cadillac with Cadillac Law. Thank you for joining me. I hope this has been informative, and have a wonderful day. And good luck out there starting May 1st, everyone. Thank you.